staring out into the night, trying to hide the pain. I'm going to the place where love, feeling good don't ever cost a thing. And the pain you feel's a different kind of pain. I'm going home, back to the place where I belong, where your love has always been enough for me. Not running from, no, I think you got me all wrong. I don't regret this life I chose for me. But these places and these faces are getting old. Be careful what you wish for, 'cause you just might get it all. You just might get it all. There's some you don't want. Be careful what you wish for, 'cause you just might get it all. You just might get it all. Yeah. I'm going home, back to the place where I belong, where your love has always been enough for me. Not running from, no, I think you got me all wrong. I don't regret this life I chose for me. But these places and these faces are getting old. I said these places and these faces are getting old. So I'm going home. I'm going home.
Yeah, give it up for the band, everyone. Woo! Man, I love that song. It's such a good song, man. And welcome home. I guess it's fitting, right? Hey, my name's Ryan James, and it's so good to see all you guys here at Current Church today. It is so good, and welcome home. We've been going through a series where we've been talking about homecoming, and so that's very fitting for today, and it was really great. If this is your first time here at Current Church, there's going to be a QR code on the screen behind me. If you want to scan that QR code, tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'll tell you a little bit about us. So here at Current Church, we want to encourage and equip people to be a follower of Jesus, no matter where you are on your spiritual journey. No matter if you've been a Christian or a Jesus follower your entire life, or even if you would say right now, I don't even know where I stand. We want to meet you where you are. And one of the things that we actually do is here at Current Church, you'll hear this all the time, we are for St. Joe. We want to be for St. Joe as much as possible, and we actually do that on your first visit. And so what we do is after you fill out that the information on the QR code, it is really smoky right now. After you fill out the information on the QR code, we will send you an email, and it'll just have some nonprofit organizations that are really doing an amazing job here in St. Joe. If you send us an email back and just tell us which one you would like us to, we will donate money on your behalf to that nonprofit organization so they can keep on being for St. Joe. So help us be for St. Joe to fill out that QR code. Hey, we have an amazing service lined up for you guys today. I'm really, really excited for it. If you guys will, go ahead and stand on up before we get into our message. Riley and Melody are going to sing a few songs today, and we're going to join in. So go ahead and stand on up.
Told me all of the ways that one day God would choose to use me, how he would pour ways, your love, oh God, are higher, higher and higher, higher and higher. All glory, praise, oh God, we lift you higher, higher and higher, higher and higher. Your thoughts, your ways, your love, oh God, are higher, higher and higher, higher and higher. Oh glory, praise, oh God, we lift you higher, higher and higher, higher and higher, higher and higher. That's who my God is. He breaks impossible. He moves in miracles. He is author of it all. He is unexplainable. He loves unstoppable. That's who my God is. He's beginning and the end. He's my Savior. He's my friend. He's the only. He's the one. Father, Spirit, and the Son. He's the power over sin. That's who my God is. That's who my God is. That's who my God is. Whoa, that's who my God is.
We serve such a good God, a God who moves and transforms, and He is so worthy of our praise this morning.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes and wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes and wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me.
you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. You guys may be seated. I love spending time with you guys here, and I'm going to be a little transparent today, and there's something that's kind of on my heart, and I just kind of want to share how much I really appreciate being a part of Current Church. And it's because of the people I get to serve with up here. It's because of the people I get to see out there whenever I'm talking with you on the hallways, or if I'm texting you throughout the week, whatever's happening. It's really meant a lot to me, and I know I'm not the only one. I've built lifelong friendships here. I've grown closer to the Lord through my community that I've been a part of here at Current Church. And many of you guys feel the same way, that you've met some great people, you're growing closer to God, and that's why we do things. And another crazy thing is there's only 1 week of school left. 1 week of summer left. Right? It's crazy. It's already gone. And so next week is actually our back to school night, or back to school day. And we're having a huge event here at the church next week. And if you're thinking that, and you're thinking, you know what, kind of like what I was saying, is that Current has just meant so much to you, and the people here, you're growing. If you feel that way, we're actually starting a brand new series next week called Friendology. And I would really love for you guys to invite someone to come next week to be a part of this event that we're going to have. If you're thinking right now, man, you know what? Ryan's right. I've grown so much, and I've really enjoyed the time that I'm here, and I'm learning stuff every single week, and it's just been a good thing for you. If you know someone, and I know you do, if you know someone even right now that's popping in your head, you're like, you know what? They would love it here too. And if that person's in your head right now, I'm going to give you guys permission. Pull your phone out real quick, send a text message right now, it's okay, and say to that person, say, hey, I'm at church right now, and I just realized that I bet you would love it here too. You should come with me next week. You can sit by me here at the movie theater at 10 o'clock. We'll only be here for an hour. See if they'll come. Everyone's kind of coming back. We're kind of coming home, which is exactly what we're doing today. We are finishing this series that we've been doing of homecoming. And so it's really fitting is that where everyone's coming back from vacation. Everyone's been doing vacations and stuff all summer long. We're all coming home, so we got this homecoming right now. So we're going to actually end the series today with homecoming. I'm really excited for this. I hope you guys have enjoyed the series so far. If you guys have missed any of it, it's all online, so you can go watch any of our past stuff. So with that being said, go ahead and turn your eyes to the screen here. We'll get right into it.
So we are wrapping our series Homecoming that we've been in for the last few weeks. And if you are here today and you consider Current to be your church home, I'm so glad that you are here today because it's a great day to join us. We're going to talk a little bit about who we are and why we do what we do. If you're here today and Current is not necessarily your church home, maybe you go to another church from time to time. Maybe you're here and you don't necessarily consider yourself a church person necessarily. Perhaps somebody kind of maybe dragged you here today. Maybe that's somebody here in the room. Or perhaps maybe you have a different faith background in the past, or maybe you have like no faith background in the past, or maybe perhaps you used to be in church and you walked away at one point and now you find yourself back in church. I just want you to know, if any of those are you, I just want you to know that you are a huge reason of why we do what we do. here at Current. We do what we do around here with people just like you in mind. And you could not have picked, I just want to tell you this, if that's you, you could not have picked a better time to be forced to come here today or to be curious about what we do around here, because today we're going to talk about why we do what we do, and we're going to talk about how we do what we do here at Current Church. So today, think of it in this way, even if you've been around for a little while, today's a little bit of a sneak peek of sorts behind the curtain of who we are and what we're all about. And if you're new with us, really, if you're new with us in the last several months or several weeks, I just want you to know, we don't even hide this fact. We have an agenda around here. We have an agenda for everyone that walks in our doors. We have a mission that we want to accomplish with every person in this room. One of the things that I say often around here, if you've been around for a little while, you hear me say this all the time. We say this as a church all the time. We just believe that following Jesus has made our lives better and that it has made us better at life. And we don't say that to mean that we think that we are better than other people, that our lives are better than other lives, but that our lives are better off than they were before we found and before we followed Jesus. That as a result of following Jesus, I am a better husband and a better father. That many of you are better husbands and fathers, that we are better wives and we are better mothers, that we are better employers and better employees. We, as a result of following Jesus, it makes us better friends and better family members. We just truly believe that following Jesus has made our lives better and that it has made us better at life. And so our mission, consequently, as a result of that, our mission is that we want to encourage, equip, and lead people to follow Jesus. That is our mission statement. We want to encourage, equip, and lead people to follow Jesus. We want to encourage people to follow Jesus because we believe that following Jesus will make your life better. Even if you don't necessarily believe what we believe, just following the life and the way of Jesus will make you better at life. It just will. And we want to equip people. We want to give you the tools to follow Jesus. We want to give you tools so that throughout the week you can learn how to forgive those difficult people that are in our lives, so that we can clean out some of those things that are in our hearts and in our lives that, we just kind of need to get cleaned out, so that you and I can begin to see people the way that Jesus sees people. We want to equip you to do that on a week-to-week basis. And lastly, we want to lead people to follow Jesus. And so what that means is if you're here today and you consider yourself a Christian, you consider yourself a Jesus follower, you have to be leading the way in what it looks like to follow Jesus if we're going to lead as a church other people. You got to be leading the way at home and at work and in our community. You got to be leading the way at church. So that's our agenda. Just so you know, if you didn't know that, that's our agenda as a church. We want to encourage, equip, and lead people to follow Jesus. If you were here last week, you heard us say this. We celebrated last week being in this theater for 2 years now. Last Sunday was the 2-year anniversary of when we started meeting in the theater. And next month, the last Sunday in September, will be the 4-year anniversary of us as a church. So we are almost 4 years old as a church, if you can believe that, those of you that have been around from the beginning. And if you go back about 4.5 years ago now, my wife and I, we started feeling like, God was leading us to come back to our hometown, St. Joe, come back here where our family is, where our friends are, where we know people. This is where our hearts are. And we started to let people know online, on social media, hey, we're moving back to St. Joe. We're going to plant a church. And I knew before we even started announcing this to people, I knew that one of the questions that was going to come up for St. Joe people was, does St. Joe really need another church? I mean, St. Joe has a lot of churches. Does St. Joe really need another church? And so one of the things that we said out of the gate from the very beginning is we're confident, St. Joe doesn't necessarily need another church, but what St. Joe does need is it needs another kind of church. It could greatly benefit from a different kind of church, specifically a church that is outward facing, that is thinking about other people, that is specifically thinking about unchurched people, the tens of thousands of people that don't have a place where they are connecting on Sunday mornings and throughout the week. And the reason that we wanted to be an outward-facing church from the very beginning is because we believe that Jesus was an outward-facing individual. You can see this as you follow him through the Gospels. I said this 2 weeks ago as part of that message, that people who were nothing like Jesus liked Jesus. People who didn't think like him, act like him, talk like him, believe like him, they still liked him. They enjoyed being around him. And so we wanted to create a church. We want to be a church where people who are not anything like us necessarily still like to be around us because that's what Jesus was like. And so this is our obsession. This is what we obsess about as a church. We want to be a church where unchurched people would love to engage, where unchurched people enjoy engaging with what it is that we do, where people after a Sunday morning experience can walk out the doors and go, I'm not sure if I believe what they believe. I'm not sure if I can get behind all that stuff that they believe, but man, I love being around them and I can't wait to go back next week. That's what we're trying to create. But the challenge of creating a church like that, specifically the challenge of creating a church like that, is that the gravitational pull of the local church, really every church, the gravitational pull of every church is toward insiders. Insiders are those people who've got it all figured out. I know how this church thing goes. I know what to expect. I know how to check my kids in. I know where I'm sitting. I know what the experience is going to be like. We didn't want to create a church for people who seem to have it all together in their lives. We wanted to create a church for people who had questions. We wanted to create a church for people who had doubts. We wanted to create a church for people who would consider themselves messes, that would go, is it okay for messy people to come to your church? Absolutely it is. This is exactly where you should be. Well, my family, it looks a little bit different. Is that okay? That is perfectly fine. You're exactly where you should be. And if you're here today and perhaps you were once a mess, if you were honest, you'd say, my life was a little bit of a mess. And then I walked in the doors of Current, and over the last however long you've been here, you would say Current has helped me to kind of get some of that mess together, to pull that mess together, specifically because we're working to be an outward-facing church. If that's you, then you are grateful for the fact that we resist the pull towards insiders. Or if you've seen somebody's life through our church, through what we've done in the last 4 years, if you've seen somebody's life being transformed, maybe you've seen the life of one of your kids being transformed, or somebody else's kids, or a friend or a family member, if you've seen that happen for anybody, then you are grateful that we resist the pull towards Christians, towards insiders. If you have a friend or a family member that perhaps is kind of resisting faith a little bit in their life, maybe they've come with you once or twice, maybe you can't seem to get them to come at all. If that's you, if you've got somebody that's resisting faith, resisting God, then you are glad that we are resisting the pull towards insiders. But the reality is that the older an organization gets, especially when it comes to churches, the older a church gets, the more and more likely it is to become about those that are already inside the doors, those that are already coming on Sunday mornings. And can I just speaking to the Current family for just a moment. If you're new with us, just tune this out for 15 seconds. Current family, if I can just be real with us for just a moment. I think we're starting to see some of that in our last 12 months or so start to creep into our church, where we've started to think about those that are already here instead of those that are out there. I see it in my own life. I see it starting to creep in my own thinking. And I don't want that. And you don't want that. And we are responsible for making sure that that doesn't happen. And so we're going to talk about it today. That's what we're going to talk about today. It's interesting, over the last 4 years, as we've kind of gone on this journey, I've seen things. I've seen church and ministry and strategy and all this stuff through a different lens, being in the seat that I've been in. This is my first 4 years leading a church. And over the last 4 years, as we've been on this journey, I've seen, I've received, I've heard the little mumblings of criticisms towards churches that are specifically like ours, that think like ours and strategize like ours. Things, you guys have probably heard some of them too. I've heard things like, well, it sure doesn't feel like a church. That's not what a church is supposed to do. That's not how a church is supposed to feel. Things like, it feels more like a concert or entertainment. The music's irreverent. How dare you open your services with a song by Daughtry, that kind of stuff. There's like a feeling perhaps that maybe we're polluting the church. I've heard complaints or criticisms over the years about churches like ours that we skip the hard truths, that we're not willing to actually challenge people on the hard truths, which is so far from the truth, because I think what we do is even more challenging. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. That lead pastor wears ripped skinny jeans. What's that all about? Like, I've heard that one. I haven't actually heard that one in a few years, but I've heard it in the past. And so I want to talk for just a moment. I want to kind of speak to or address two of the specific ones that I've heard over the last 4 years, really over about the last 7 years or so. You may have heard this first one yourself. Maybe some of you in this room, maybe you have said this yourself about us. And the first big one that I hear often is that you're not deep. Current church isn't deep. In fact, I said I've heard this over the last 4, but I've really heard this over the last 7 years since I joined a church that's like ours, that first joined into the network of churches that we're a part of as part of our church. Ironically, this one right here is never one that people seem willing to say to my face. They just like to, grumble and mumble about it behind our backs or in closed conversations. But there's kind of I wouldn't say it's a common feeling, but there is a feeling sometimes that people are like, if you want to go deep in your faith, then you're going to have to go somewhere else. You're going to have to find some other place. So let's just talk about it for just a second. First of all, let's define what deep is, okay? Let's think of it through the terms of a swimming pool. In a swimming pool, you have the shallow end and you have the deep end, right? And what is the deep end of the pool? The deep end of the pool is the part of that pool where you can't touch bottom, where you have to constantly fight, you have to constantly swim, you have to constantly be moving to keep your head above water. Can I just ask the question, is that the primary purpose of the church? To put people in a position where they have to constantly be fighting to keep their head above water, to confuse people, to have people walking out on Sunday mornings going, oh, that was deep. That was some deep stuff. Well, did you understand it? No, I didn't understand any of it, but I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with it. But it had to have been deep because I didn't understand it. We just have the gall to believe around here that when people can actually understand what we talk about on Sunday mornings and then go and apply it during the week, Monday through Saturday, that is what is deep. In fact, that's basically a thought that comes from Jesus himself. Jesus in one of his parables said that anyone, and you can answer this if you know, anyone who hears these words of mine and does what? Anybody? Puts them into practice. Anyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice. Not anybody who hears these words of mine and learns more information. Not anybody who hears these words of mine and memorizes more. Not anybody who hears these words of mine and takes notes on Sunday morning. Not anybody who hears these words of mine and I like to call it moos. You know what I'm talking about. When I say something and you're like, that was good. That was deep right there. Not anybody who does that. It's anybody who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice. The way I can illustrate this is like this. Unapplied truth. I can be as deep as you want me to be on Sunday mornings, but if you're not going out and applying it, unapplied truth is like unapplied paint. If you decided you wanted to go paint your living room, and you go to the store and you buy the 2 cans of paint that you need for your living room, and you bring those cans home and you put them in your garage and you put them in your basement, wherever it is that you store paint, and you never actually put that paint up on the walls, nothing has changed. Because applying the paint is what the paint is designed for. Applying is the same with Jesus. Applying what Jesus taught us is what the teaching of Jesus is for. That actually applying the teaching of Jesus, giving you handles, stuff that you can apply during the week, that is what produces deep Christians. And you probably know, many of you probably know some deep Christians, people that you would go, yeah, they are some deep people. And it's not typically the people that have a whole bunch of stuff memorized, although they often do. They often know a lot about Scripture, and they would be deep in that way too. But the deepest Christians you know are the ones who sit in circles in community groups in people's living rooms. It's the people who sit with kids on rugs on Sunday mornings and invest in their lives, who sit with kids who have like just lives during the week that are broken and their families are trying to figure things out. It's people that sit with those kids and sit with people who are walking through the difficult parts of life. There are people who walk through difficult seasons, and the deep Christians are the ones who go, I'm going to dive into that, and I'm going to be invested in them. The deep Christians are the ones who have deep joy and deep patience and deep kindness and gentleness and respect. Deep Christians are the ones who wade out into deep water of sacrificial application where they won't survive without God's help. And so what we try to do on Sunday mornings is to be clear and compelling and convicting. But a lot of Christians, a lot of religious people would rather hear a whole bunch of words that are difficult for them to understand and feel like that's deep than actually walk out the doors and follow Jesus with their lives in everyday situations, than to actually do the uncomfortable things. If you want to be deep, if you're here today and you go, I want to be a deep Christian, do something that stretches your faith. Do something that stretches you. Like Peter stretched his faith when he got out of that boat when Jesus called him out on the water. You want to be a deep Christian? How about you try this? Over the next 12 months, give twice as much to the church as you did in the last 12 months. I know, if I were to actually, and I'm not actually challenging you with that, but if I were to stand up here and talk about giving in that way, it's sacrificial giving, and challenge you to give twice as much over the last year as you gave over the previous year, you know what most of you would do? You'd retreat back to the shallow end. Nah, that's okay. I'm good. I'd rather just hear a bunch of fancy talk. But anytime somebody challenges you to actually do something, and anytime somebody actually challenges me to do something, that is an invite to the deep end of the pool. So we're not necessarily all about, just more teaching and more information. We're about applying the teachings of Jesus around here. The second big criticism that I've heard fairly often, and this is probably one that I don't see leverage towards us as much as it's just kind of, passive-aggressively done so, is you just want to be big. You just want to be a big church, so you got to be doing something wrong. You're doing some wrong things in order to draw crowds. You just want to draw a crowd. This is one of my favorites. If you were really teaching the Bible, if you were actually teaching the Bible, if you were actually teaching the Gospels, then you wouldn't be a big church because you'd be challenging people and you'd be, turning people away with the gospel. Can I just tell you, if you follow Jesus, again, through the Gospels, if you look at Jesus specifically in the Gospel of Mark, Mark got his gospel primarily from one of Jesus' close friends and followers, Peter. Peter communicated all this stuff, shared all this stuff with Mark, who wrote it down for us to have today. If you follow Jesus through the Gospel of Mark, did you know that in every chapter of Mark, except for one, the word in the original language that is translated into the word crowd shows up in every chapter but one in the book of Mark? In other words, everywhere Jesus went, there were large crowds of hundreds of people, thousands of people. And do you know who had a problem with the large crowds gathering around Jesus? Religious people. That's who had a problem with it. And think about this. If Jesus truly is God in the flesh, he's God in a body, and we're told by John, one of Jesus' close friends, that God is love, then that means Jesus was love in the flesh, love incarnate. That's what that means. And people were drawn to him. Even if they weren't sure they believed what he believed, people were drawn to Jesus. And then Jesus, whenever he died, rose from the dead, handed the church off to us, the last thing he told us to do is he said, I want you to go make more followers of me. I want you to go multiply yourselves. I want you to not just be deep, I want you to be wide. And this is where he said it. He said it in Matthew chapter 28. Matthew tells us, Jesus said, go and make disciples of all nations. Well, Jesus, you mean you want us to go and make disciples of all the religious people in all nations, right? And he's like, no. I want you to go make disciples of the messy people. I want you to go make disciples of the sinful people. I want you to go make disciples of the people that are separated from God, the people that are lost, that are far from God. I want you to go and tell every mess, every person, every single person on the planet that there is good news of great joy for all the people. It's like, I want you to go live lives that reflect me in such a way, reflect my love and joy and peace and patience, and go reflect me in such a way that people can't help but be drawn to you. They can't help but be drawn to me. Because if you'll do that, then you're going to multiply. You're going to create more disciples. Can I just tell you, I have absolutely nothing against smaller churches. I don't have a problem being a small church. That's not where my problem is. That's not where I would say I have an issue. Like, I am great with wherever we're at. This isn't even necessarily about the size of our church. This is about being on mission. And our mission is to be an outward-facing, multiplying church. So as a result of both of those things, I just want to tell you, we want our church to be deep, and we want it to be wide. We want our church to be deep. We want it to be anchored to Jesus, his death and his resurrection. And we want it to be anchored to his teaching so that you can go out and personally apply what Jesus taught us. And we want to be wide. We want to be as wide as our entire community. As many people, the tens of thousands of people in this community that don't have a place, we want to be that wide. But often, being an outward-facing church like we are means that you're just going to get criticisms. You're just going to get the comments from people, mostly religious church people. We're going to get those comments. But can I just tell you, as the lead pastor of this church, my concern is not the criticisms from out there. It's just not. I don't care. Say whatever you want. My concern is whether or not we choose as Current Church to give in to the gravitational pull towards insiders. I don't want us to reach a place where we're going, well, what about my seat? Well, what about my place? Like, what about me getting to sit in service and actually benefit from the message and the music? Well, what about, the music that I want? Well, what about the message that's going to actually grow me, take me deeper? What about my parking spot? What about my own spiritual growth? What about me? We don't want to be that church. We don't want to do this. Why? Well, we take our cue from this from something that happened in Acts chapter 15. Last week we looked at something that was in Acts as well, an earlier part of Acts. Acts, again, is the fifth book of the New Testament. It was written, documented for us by Luke, who gave us the Gospel of Luke as well. And Luke tells us that after the resurrection of Jesus, so Jesus died, rose again, hands a church off to us, and he says, hey, I want you to go make disciples. I want you to go reach more people. After that happened, Jewish people started to become Christians. They started to become followers of Jesus. And then the message of Jesus began to spread all over the known world. And then Gentile people, which is just anybody who's not a Jew. So if you're not Jewish today, congratulations, you're Gentile. Gentile people started to become followers of Jesus. They started to become Christians. That wasn't the term yet at that point, but they started to become followers of Jesus. Now, the Jewish people who became followers of Jesus, because they were Jewish, they grew up with these rules and these traditions and these laws and these rituals and these things they had to follow and these festivals. And they're like, here these Gentile people are. They're just putting their faith in Jesus, choosing to follow Jesus and because of his death and resurrection. And we had to do all this stuff as a kid, or we still have to do all this stuff. That is so not fair. And so the question became, do they have to become Jewish in order to become Christian? Do these Gentile people have to follow our customs and follow our rules and traditions? I mean, after all, Jesus was Jewish. So do they have to follow all our rules and traditions and customs? Do the men have to be circumcised? No. Yes, no. Do they have to, So they decide, as a church, they decide to have a big church meeting. I hope that we never have to have a big church meeting to decide what where we're going to stand on big issues. But at this big church meeting, Peter is there, one of Jesus' closest friends, one of the guys largely responsible for the start of the church. And Paul is there, a guy who became a follower of Jesus after all of this happened. And James, the brother of Jesus, he's there in the room. You know who else is in this room? Interestingly, you may not have ever thought about this, but there are Pharisees, former Pharisees that are in this room and part of this conversation as well. In fact, they were a big part of the reason why the conversation was even happening. Because think about this, there were Pharisees who became followers of Jesus, not because of what he taught. In fact, they had to work through a lot of that stuff. They had to figure a lot of that stuff out after becoming followers of Jesus. In fact, when Jesus was here on this earth, they had a big problem with that. They liked to fight him on the stuff that he taught. But they became followers of Jesus because they saw Jesus crucified. Many of them were largely responsible for that. And then they saw him alive with their own eyes, and they thought to themselves, maybe we should switch teams. We should throw on another jersey at this point. You know what I'm saying? And so they became followers of Jesus. And so both sides debate. The Pharisees are like, no, they have to be Jewish. They have to follow our Jewish customs. And Peter and Paul, they get up and they debate as well and share their thoughts because both of them had experienced Gentile people becoming Christians. And James, the brother of Jesus, he gets up to clear all of this up at the end of all the debate. And he says something that really is, it's the thing that drives who we are as a church. This is what we're all about. He says, it's my judgment, therefore, that we should not make it difficult for the Gentiles who are turning to God. We should not make it difficult for people who are turning to God. We need to remove all of the unnecessary obstacles for people, for anybody who's taking a step to follow God through what Jesus did for us. And he's like, being a Jew, circumcision, the laws, the rituals, all that stuff, that's unnecessary. Those are unnecessary obstacles to follow Jesus. And I think he could have even said in that moment, guys, think about this. People putting their faith, their confidence, their trust in a guy that died and we claim rose again, the fact that they're believing that and following that guy, that's a pretty big step. That's a pretty big step already. Let's not make it even more difficult for them unnecessarily. And so this is what we do as a church. This is who we are. We want to remove all of the unnecessary obstacles that make it difficult for people who are turning to God through how we live our lives, through how we talk about Jesus, through how we present the message, through how we make things applicable. And so what we're going to do today, just for the last few minutes together as we start to head into the back section of what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to give you 3 questions that I want you to consider. These are questions that for our leadership, for the people that are directing and leading our teams and our church, this is stuff that we consider often. This is stuff we've talked about many times. And around here, we call these 3 questions that I want you to consider today as well. We call it the irresist list. We believe that if we can get the answers to these 3 questions right, that will make us an irresistible church to our community. This will help ensure that we are doing everything we can to remove the obstacles that are making it difficult for people who are following or wanting to follow God. Now, these 3 things that I'm about to share with you are going to feel familiar to a very select few of you specifically. We've talked about things that are kind of along these lines in the past, but what we're about to talk about specifically, the last time I talked about this was all the way back in November of 2021. So almost 4 years ago. So if you have joined our crew since November of 21, you've not heard me talk about the irresist list, at least not on a Sunday morning. So those 3 questions, the irresist list, are: what do they see, what do they hear, and what do they experience? We're going to talk about each one individually for just a couple minutes. First of all, what do they see? And for practicality today, I'm specifically talking about what do people see on Sunday mornings when they join us? Do our facilities, this is the question that we ask, do our facilities look like we are expecting guests and their children? Let me just ask you a question. When is your house the cleanest? Thank you. Thank you, Matt. You're all over it. That's right. It's not a trick question. It's right before you have guests coming. It's when you're expecting guests. That's when you have the cleanest house. It's not when, your sister's coming over to hang out or your brother's coming over, or if you have kids that have grown up and moved out, your house is probably not the cleanest when your kids are coming over because you don't really care, right? It's not like it's only when you're expecting guests. And can I just tell you, this right here on Sunday mornings, this is our house. Yes, it's a theater that we're leasing for 5 hours every Sunday. But when we're in this building, this is our house, and we are expecting guests. I don't say this to be offensive in any way, but have you ever visited a dirty church? You know what I'm talking about? Like you walk in the doors and either subconsciously or even maybe consciously, you think you guys clearly are not expecting guests. Like you don't see the dirty floors, the gum wrappers and the outdated posters that don't, the trash in the corner and the lack of signage. You ever visited a church like that? And you think that because why? You look at it and you go, you clearly are just expecting family today. You're just expecting the family. We believe that cleanliness in organization says, hey, we expected you today. That's why a couple of weeks ago, I was walking by the men's restroom, and I don't know why the kids in our church like to do this, but they go into the bathroom, they get a mint, they unwrap a mint, and then those candy wrappers, where do they go? Straight to the floor. Do these kids, do our children know that trash cans exist? I have the same problem with my children, believe me. But I walked by the bathroom, there was a mint wrapper on the floor. I just as I walked by, swoop by, pick it up, threw in the trash. Today, I was getting ready to shoot a little video out in the front lobby, out in the front glass area, and there was a cigarette butt right in the middle of the floor. So I bent down, picked it up, threw it away. Do you know who picks up trash around here? Not just me. You do, because we're family and we're expecting guests. It's why I love in our bathrooms, especially in the women's bathroom, that we provide feminine products. I don't know why we would provide that in the men's bathroom, but in the women's bathroom, we provide feminine products. Last weekend we had a young person in our church express gratitude that we provided feminine products in the women's bathroom because she had an emergency. Like, that is awesome that we do that because we're thinking about our guests. We're thinking about the fact that guests come. I don't know about you personally. I don't like blow dryers for our hands. I hate them. Like, they don't get your hands clean. You have to wipe your hands on your pants, and that's after it's just blown all that water all over, to make it look like accidents have happened. And I hate blow dryers. Like, I just hate them. And so one of the things that we do, we think about that. We provide paper towels in the bathroom. Why? Because we're trying to think about what would a guest want or need. I love people that go in there and grab a couple paper towels and wipe up the sinks whenever you see the sinks just looking like a mess and water everywhere. It's why we greet people happily on Sunday mornings at the front door and in the parking lot and throughout the building. It's why we try to create inviting and exciting signage that gets you excited to be here. Do our facilities say we're expecting guests? Here's the second part of that. What do they see? We ask the question, do guests see themselves? Young people need to see other young people. That's why I love the fact that we have so many young people that serve in different places and in different ways, because young people need to come in and see other young people that are engaged and involved, so keep serving. Older people in later stages of life need to see older people in later stages of life. Families that have kids, they need to walk in and see themselves, see other families that have kids. College kids need to see other college-age kids. And I love the fact that we have really great diversity in our church. We really do. We have great diversity as far as age and stage of life and different parts of life. We have diversity as far as race and life experience, and we have all kinds of diversity. But if I can for just a moment, and this is just, again, if you're new with us today and you're not, you don't know that you're part of the family quite yet, if that's maybe where you're at, you can tune me out again for 30, 60 seconds. I just want to talk to the family for just a moment. I'm going to push on you just a little bit for just a second. People need to see themselves. But people can't see you if you're not here. That's why I want people here. Because I want you to be able to grow in your life, but I also want other people to see you here. This is why you need to be here. Along with that, that's also why we need more volunteers, people to step up and serve. Just this week, I was told that we need more people in our guest service environments and our guest service team, which is a fantastic team, by the way. Kyra kills it with that team, but she needs more people so that people can know where to go and what to do. No, you guys, you go to new places and you figure it out all the time. You know how to get around new places. People can figure it out. We put people in the parking lot and at the front door and throughout this building so that people can see themselves and feel welcomed. That's part one. Part two, what do they hear? Specifically here, we ask the question, do we have a good reputation in our community? Perhaps right now, for current, the better question is, do we have any reputation at all in our community? And our reputation does not just fall on us as far as the leaders of this organization. Do you know who determines our reputation? You do. And I do. Our reputation follows us everywhere we go. I feel the weight of this every day. Anytime I'm out in public, I feel the weight of our reputation as a church. Anytime I'm in Walmart, I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm subconsciously thinking or even consciously thinking, hey, Ben, can't be a jerk today. You can't be an idiot on the road. You can't be a jerk to this cashier or whoever it is that you're working with, this customer service person. Like, can't be a jerk today. Can you imagine if you were inviting somebody to Current Church and you're like, hey, you got to come to Current. And they're like, nah, I ain't interested because that Ben guy, he is a jerk. Could you imagine if that was the case? So can I just ask you politely, don't go be a jerk with a Current sticker on your car, please. Don't go be a jerk in Walmart with a For St. Joe shirt or a Current shirt, Where You Currently Are shirt. I'm doing everything I can to not mess up your invites. Can you do everything you can to not mess up my invites too? We'll just do that for one another. How about that? Is that safe to say? I want people to look at you and go, man, I don't necessarily know if I believe everything he believes. I don't know if I believe everything she believes, but man, I wish I was more like him. I wish I was more like her. Those people they're the most kind, they're the most generous, they're the most full of joy, the most loving people I have ever met in my life. Yeah, they believe some pretty crazy stuff. And let's just be real, we believe some pretty crazy stuff. We believe a guy died and rose from the dead. That's pretty crazy. They believe some crazy stuff, but man, I would love it if my daughter married one of them. I'd love to hire one of them. I'd love to work for one of those Christians because they are just the kindest, most amazing people on the planet. So are you being a good neighbor? Are you being a good coach? Are you being a good parent? Are you being a turd on your social medias? Posting silly, divisive stuff? And I'm not asking you to think about this simply because of Current Church, but because this is what it means to be a Christian. To be full of kindness and joy and love and patience. This is why for us, this is why we do For St. Joe. This is why For St. Joe is a huge, huge thing for us. For St. Joe, if you don't know, this is why when we do this throughout the year in different ways. This is why every fourth Sunday of the month, we pick a different cause in the community, a different nonprofit organization, a different event that we're gonna put on, and we raise money and give it away to those organizations. And we also tend to spend a whole month talking about these types of things. I can't wait to share with you the results of the last year, the last 12 months, and the ways that we've helped hungry people, the way that we have invested in foster families in our community, the way that we've thought about and tried to be strategic towards women in crisis in our community, the way that like 7 or 8 different ways or different times last year that we got into the schools in St. Joe and invested in the school system and the teachers and the faculty, the parents, the kids, the families, the way that we blessed, you guys know, many of you know this, the way that we blessed first responders last year, and we're going to do something very similar, hopefully this year as well. This right here is so for St. Joe is so important to us. Why? Because we want people in our community to know that we're here. We want people to be happy that we're here, and we want people to feel like their lives are better off because we're here in this community. Why do we do For St. Joe? Yes, because we absolutely want to address some of those physical, tangible needs in our community, and we should be doing that. That's the job of the church. But we also do it, perhaps more importantly for us, we do it because it opens doors, because it opens people's hearts to the message of Jesus. I want people in our community to at least be willing to listen to what it is that we have to say. Which leads to the second part of what do they hear, is our communication clear and engaging? Not just is our communication true, I believe it's true. We're certain it's true. But is it clear? Is it engaging? We in all of our environments, in our adult environments, in our kids' environments on Sunday mornings across the hall, in our student environments on Sunday nights, we are constantly working to ensure that our message stays clear and engaging. And along with that, we are always thinking, is our content, is it actually helpful? We're confident that our content is true. But is it helpful? Is it practical? Does it have next steps? Are we giving people handles to work with during the week? Are we allowing people to, encouraging people to walk out the door going, I'm not sure if I believe what they believe, but man, that was helpful. And then lastly, what do they experience? Specifically here, we ask the question, what is it like to experience us? What's it like to experience you? When people walk through the theater doors on a Sunday morning, are they blown away by our love for one another? Are they blown away by our love for them? If you consider Current to be your church home, can I just ask you the question, do you show up on Sunday mornings with the mindset of what can I do to help? Or are you walking through our doors on Sunday morning going, what are they doing to help me today? What are they going to do to grow me today? What are they going to do to help me in my spiritual journey today? Or what can I do to help? Look around on Sundays. Find people that are new and go, hey, can I help you? You look like maybe you're not sure what to do. Can I help you find a seat? Can I help you find the right auditorium? Oh, hey, you got kids? Let me help you check those kids in, or I'll at least get you connected to somebody that can. Just be approachable on Sunday mornings like Jesus, even if you're not scheduled to serve that day. Serve people. So when it comes to what they experience, we ask, are we believable? Are we approachable? Are we excellent? Are we organized? Are we friendly? So that's the irresist list. What do they see? What do they hear? What do they do? Or what do they experience? This right here, this is mission critical for us. Mission critical for us. The answers to these questions may determine if people come back. And can I just tell you today, God is not chasing people off. Jesus is not chasing people away from the church. So let's just make sure that we aren't chasing people away either, intentionally or unintentionally, because all over St. Joe, I know this because of the friends that I have talked to in the last several months, all over St. Joe, there are people who would say, you know, I would be willing to give church one more shot. One more shot. And every Sunday, I'm inviting people that are willing to give it one more shot. And you're inviting people that are willing to give it one more shot. And when you invite people and you know that they're coming, man, you're praying that I don't say something stupid. You're hoping that our musicians show up absolutely prepared to the best of their ability. You're hoping our guest service team is so friendly and so welcoming without being overwhelming and so nice to people. You're hoping that in our kids' environments that they are getting it right with your friends and your family members' kids. So these are the questions that we're building on right here. These are the questions that we're building on. With Jesus and his love, with Jesus as the foundation of it all. And here's what I want to do today. I want to wrap with something that the Apostle Paul wrote in a letter that he wrote to the church. I'm going to try and go through it very quickly. Paul says this, though I am free and belong to no one, I have made myself a slave to everyone. Who is a slave? A slave is somebody who doesn't have any rights. Paul's like, I have chosen to give up my rights for the sake of other people. Why? This is important. To win as many as possible. Well, what's it look like to give up your rights, to become a slave, Paul? What's that look like? He's like, well, to the Jews, I became like a Jew to win the Jews. And if you don't get the humor here, I mean, like he's not trying to be funny, but it's kind of ironic. Like, Paul, you're a Jew. Like, you don't have to become like a Jew. You're a Jew. He's like, yeah, but like, you know those tradition-following people? The people who follow the rules and the customs and they still do all that stuff and they go to the temple and all that stuff. I do the same thing. Why? So that I can share Jesus with those people. And he's like, to those not having the law, to the non-Jewish people, I became like one not having the law, though I am not free from God's law, but I'm under Christ's law. Just pull out of that for just a second. If you're not familiar with this terminology, Christ's law, he's referring to the command that Jesus gave his followers on the night that he was betrayed. He was with all of his guys, and he's like, guys, I give you one command. Here is my command. My command is you are to love other people like I have loved you. And then he would show them the greatest act of love by going to the cross the very next day. So Paul saying I'm under Christ's law means my job, the rule of Christ is I am to love other people like Christ loved me, like Christ loved you. He says, I have become all things to all people so that. And this next part is why we started Current Church. This next part is my heart. And this next part is the heart of Current Church. And I hope today that this is the heart of you. If you're a Jesus follower, if you're here today and you're new, you should know this is what we're doing. This is our goal. This is our agenda as a church. So that by all possible means, by any means necessary. This right here, by all possible means, this is the church we're trying to be. This is why we ask these questions. By all possible means, I might save some. And for almost 4 years now, we have done everything we can as a church to be a by all possible means church. And it's risky. And being an all possible means church, whatever it takes church, it's going to be messy. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. If you're here today and you love Current Church and this is your church and you're like, yeah, I just want you to know this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. This is who we are. And if you're not a church person, or maybe you're our guest today, maybe you're not even really sure what you believe, I want you to know you don't have to believe everything that we believe before you can belong here. And maybe perhaps for you, you might need to hear this today. You are invited today to join us on this journey. Not because we want something from you, but because we want something for you. We want something for St. Joe. We want something for our community. And it's Jesus. And it's his love. Will you pray with me? God, I know that it can be so easy for us to drift from what's important and what's valuable. It can be so easy for us to drift away from people who need you and towards our own wants and our own desires and our own growth and our own, fill in the blank. But God, I pray for my own heart. I pray for the heart of those that are in this room today. I pray that you would help us just to maintain focus on what matters, what's important, and that's that there are people that are far from you that are lost. They're lost to you. But you want them back. And so, God, I pray that in whatever way, whichever maybe perhaps some of these questions landed more than others for those of us in this room today, I pray that whatever steps we need to take to prioritize that on Sunday mornings, throughout the week, in community groups, I pray you'd help us to do that well. Just like we've been praying for weeks, I pray that with today's message that you would give us the wisdom to know what to do with this and the courage to actually take the steps and do it, to do the uncomfortable things that deep Christians do, to follow you and actually apply it in our lives. We love you, Jesus. We pray it all in your name. Amen. We're going to close with this song. I want to invite you to stand and we're going to sing it together and just remind ourselves that we're building on the foundation of Christ's love together.
Such a good service today. I mentioned earlier, and I can't stress it enough, I really love being a part of this church, and I love being here with you guys. Just a quick reminder, next week is our big back-to-school event. So invite someone to come back to school, and welcome home. I hope you guys have a great day today, and just have a good one, all right? See you.